I will never forget the day I was working at Forever 21. I'm 19, 20 years old, and I'm working with a woman who told me, I've lost 100 pounds. And I said, how the hell did you do that? She said, I walk 10 miles every day. And in that moment, it sparked the idea of hope, like change is possible. Like if you can do it, then so can I. So in this episode, we're going to be sharing technically four very powerful transformations from the elevators inside our membership club. You know, hearing people's story of triumph and challenge and what they did to overcome the things that really brought them the biggest struggles gave me hope. So I know that it's going to give you the inspiration and encouragement that you need to maybe break free of some of those addictions or past pains or fears that stop you from being your authentic self. Each one of these stories that we showcase literally moves me to tears, and I am so proud of each and every one of them. And I know you're going to enjoy their transformation stories as much as we love watching it happen in real time behind the scenes of our monthly coaching club. Hey, we're Britt and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 16 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation and working with thousands of clients, we've found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset that aligns with your authenticity, integrity, and soul purpose, regardless of your past.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place, because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness. We don't shy away from the taboo topics like sex, hypnosis, meditation, and exploring altered states of consciousness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. Hey everyone, today we are so excited to bring you this beautiful guest here on the podcast. She has been an elevator for a few years now, and watching her journey going from signing up to my coaching program to becoming an elevator to becoming one of our closest friends. It's been really cool to see the power of what it's like to surround yourself with like-minded community and how that can support and transform your own life. It also just happens to be that Carrie is Chris's birthday twin. So we've got two Aquariuses in the house, and it's like I know her or something because I've been married to her for 16 years. Carrie, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Carrie, if you'll just take a moment to share a little bit about who you are and how did you discover the elevated life?
Well, my name's Carrie, and the universe led me to you guys. I mean, I fully 100% believe in that. My husband actually suggested you to me, and the first couple of times I just blew him off thinking that was one of his crazy ideas and
which it was.
It was, but it's one of his best suggestions I've ever had from him. So, but I was in a place that I really feel the universe was ready for me to level up in my healing and just my life in general and every aspect. I kind of took a few notes for this. I know that shocks you both, but I found one of the things that says my life has unfolded and expanded in every aspect of my life. I play a lot in my head about you saying one small thing changes everything. And for a long time, I didn't really believe that. I took it, but I kind of just put it on that little shelf.
She wrote it in her notes in the back.
never flipped back to that page. But no, all kidding aside, I mean, through this consistency of showing up, I have found that I'm a better mom, a better wife, a better friend, a better sister, a better me. And that affects every aspect of your life you really think about it.
And you know, something you touched on, both of y'all touched on, that I think is so important, and you do such a great job. And I don't know that anyone's ever commended you on this. And we always talk about, like, what is the importance of community? What is the importance of being around people who care about you, being around people who are vested in you, and being around people who, when they go to sleep at night, their last few thoughts are like, man, I hope they're doing well, or, oh, I really wish them the best of luck, or hope they succeed in that thing they're doing tomorrow. And you are one of those people. I cannot think of a time where we've spoken in the past couple of years where you have not mentioned someone that we know that you have reached out to beyond what we've done together, and you're in their story, you're listening to what they're saying, you're supporting them, you're helping them move through tough times, because we're all going through it. And I just want to say that you are such a prime example of what a community can do for somebody, because we always hear about you. It's not just, I mean, it's always through the grapevine. We hear about, man, Carrie's really been helping me, man, really, Carrie's really been supporting me, that shoulder that I've needed to lean on. And what do you think is so important about being around people that care about you, being around people that build you up versus tear you down?
Oh, I mean, I think that is absolutely one part of the foundation. I mean, because it is such a big impact. I feel like most of us really worry about what other people think about us. And when you set that to the side and you just have no expectations on somebody else, you fill your cup first, you take care of yourself, you get out of your own damn way. You know that by reaching out to somebody else, it's going to come back in some way. You're going to be taken care of. And I just live by that. I think that part of me always has, but I truly embrace it now. I really do it without that expectation of anything in return. I think is the biggest thing you have to drop. You're really.
Oh, so sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I hope that makes sense in a way, because I don't mean to make it sound easy. It's taken me a long time. It's something I have to be mindful of. And I think it started really kind of being a part of my everyday life in my early sobriety. I heard a lot of, when you reach out, somebody's always reaching to you, and it's really just trusting in it.
Yeah. It's so interesting because, as you mentioned, your husband, who I went to high school with, referred you to me. So it's been a beautiful journey over the past couple of years. I met you at the beginning of 2020, and we did a 90-day coaching intensive that turned into 2 goddess retreats together, that turned into come over for Friendsgiving or New Year's Eve party, or come show up at my dad's funeral. Like, when you think about what an elevator is and the power of community, like, you really do embody the example of leadership, the example of showing up and being consistent. Because I tell you what, there's been very few master classes live that you have missed. And every single time, Chris and I look at each other like, where was Carrie? Where's Carrie? What's up? What's Carrie doing? Like, is Carrie okay? So, it's the consistency of you showing up, of you putting in the work. You have really blown my mind in the level of transformation in your relationship, in your ability to trust the process, in your inner peace, in your parenting. Like, so much has changed. Can you describe the Carrie that I met in the beginning of 2020? Like, what was she struggling with? Where was her head at?
Well, I appreciate those words from you, and I'm really grateful. We started I think we had our first connection call of like, are we going to work together in the beginning of March? And our first real deep dive call was that week that everything shut down for 2020. And I had planned this whole thing with you, coaching with the expectation of a child being at school, and so which I'm so grateful it came, because I don't know how that 2020 lockdown could have been a lot different because I was in a better place than I had been, but I wasn't emotionally, physically, spiritually, wasn't in a good place, mentally, emotionally, every aspect of my life. My husband and I were on pretty much a brink of a divorce. I had a child that I was repeating how I was raised. Um, I mean, all in my own shame of what I was doing, the path I saw I was going down, but didn't know how to do anything about, because I was at my wit's end. I tried everything, and surrendering when I came in touch with you was the first step. And I think one of the most important steps, and it's kind of how I feel like has ricocheted through. I've worked with both of you together individually. You and I did the coaching. We've done the goddess retreats. I've done sessions with Chris. I mean, it's trusting that where you are is you're not alone. I think and for the first time, I even wrote it in my little notes. For the first time, I felt understood. I felt, and where I was okay, and I have to remind myself of where I was. It wasn't a pretty place, but if I had not been there, I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I've learned through all of this. But I really believe it's feeling a part of a community. I feel a part of the Elevated Life community. I know that my consistency of showing up once a month is our time to connect. I look forward to it. I look forward to hearing others' experiences, how they did it. We might not all have the same exact experiences, situations, but we all know what those feelings feel like. I know what sadness feels like. I know what guilt feels like. I know what emotional sabotaging myself feels like. I mean, I can relate. It doesn't have to be the exact same situation. I feel like coming into this group, I've not only felt understood, I felt accepted. And that's not a place I felt like I really genuinely had ever been a part of in my life, where people that just say, I see you, I hear you, I love you.
That's so powerful. How would you even describe the Elevated Life Club to someone? Like, the way you're talking is making me be like, I want to get that. And like, I'm like, well, shit, I made it. So like, what would you describe the Elevated Life Club to someone as?
Well, I didn't have any experiences with these type of clubs coming in. First and foremost, I got this because I signed up with the coaching with you, and you said, hey, I'm going to give you the access to this membership. And I was like, okay. And I'm a student. So when I went in there the first time and I saw this library of knowledge that the two of you had shared, I felt in heaven. I felt like, well, there you are. It's just, you taught me to love myself. And I found it in those stories that you two shared over, I think that at that time it was 4 years of information out there. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that when I got in there and I listened to going back and listening to old things, I was like, they understand how I feel. And I didn't even have to be face to face, one-on-one with you. Just through the watching of the screen, I felt it, I received it. And after we talked about doing this, I really wanted to share with others so that they could understand what this is about, because I can sit here and say, yeah, everything in my life's changed, but like how, like what? And first I started with the meditation. I'd never meditated really before. I never could shut my mind down quiet enough to meditate. I didn't know how to do that. And so I would give up after 1 or 2 times. Like this, I'm frustrated. I don't know what I'm doing. My grandmother had put me in therapy most of my life, and she had me go to hypno sessions, and I just laid there in the chair and pretended like, yeah, okay, whatever. And but true meditating, you guys have taught me, and I can do it myself now. I can meditate. I did before we met. We got on this call. I just closed my eyes. I just quieted that mind. And that is so powerful. And you taught me how to do it myself, you know? And I remember those things and the consistency, just showing up and doing it. Even when in the beginning, when I couldn't quiet my mind, I'd just sit there and I'd be like, okay, you know, but coming back and listening to you guys, and maybe I found an answer the next time in that class that I needed, that I was searching for. And so I think it was just, you know, being willing to learn and listen to what your experiences were, and to take that with me when I left, not just leave it and go, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, can you talk about, I think this is something really important because a lot of people don't understand this, because meditation for most of us is something that other people talk about, but it's not like a state that we actually access. Can you talk about what it feels like to be unburdened by your mind of all the thoughts? Because I know how your personality runs, because we are so super similar. And I know what having all of those thoughts is like. I mean, it is almost, to me, like you're in a prison. And for so many years, I felt like I was imprisoned by my own thoughts. And no matter what was going on in my life, how much success I'd had, who I was with, what I was doing, none of that stuff mattered, because my brain was still like bang, 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 just nonstop, constantly talking, constantly waking me up in the night, constantly waking me up early in the morning. I'm like, dude, can you talk about what it's like to have that freedom and how that can make you feel?
In the beginning, we used to joke and say Carrie had 25 personalities, or like 25 different to-do lists, or just there was like 25 different things going on all the fucking time. So you nailed that.
Oh, for sure. It was one of my things in my note. You taught me I'm not 25 people. You know, and I did that to myself, you know, recognizing that I was doing that to myself, that I was, I used to stress if you interrupted me when I was stressing. I would stress because I didn't know what I was stressing about. Like, I just lived in the red zone, you guys. Like, I mean, it was just like, what was I stressing about? What was I stressing about? I know that you know, and it was like, if I just shut up and let it go, you know, but at the time you think you have good intentions, you know, you think you're doing the right thing, but you are running yourself ragged. And I remember the first time Brittany and I talked, and she goes, what do you do for self-care? And I was like, I sleep. And she's like, no, what do you do for you? And I was like, I sleep, maybe at night, you know? And she was like, no, really? And I was like, I'm not sure what you're wanting me to say here, but it's sleep, but you know, and it was, and then, but it got me thinking, like, you know, I used to have a list upon a list in every notebook that I came across in this house, every notepad, there was a list going on it, and they were endless. And most of it was the same stuff on every single list that, you know, like pay the electric bill, like, but you know, I just kept transferring it, and it would wake me up. It would keep me awake at night. And it was that consistency of I just kept going back because you said it would work. You said if I just kept doing it, it would work. And I believed you, because you had said something else that I related to, and I believe, you know, and it was just this snowball. And it was like really something I think that I've read over the last few years is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, you know, and it's that you just have to be willing to, I think it's tell yourself to shut up, tell your mind to shut up. Like, you know, I go back to my sobriety a lot because that was another big thing. And I remember sitting in a AA meeting and they're saying, this is a movie theater, a studio in your head. If you look at it like that, I think I have a whole entire 8-hour movie script in my head, and I will write it down, and it's a few sentences that's bothering me, that's holding me back. You know, it's like, you didn't take the trash out today, you know, or whatever, the simple task or something. But in my head, it's this 3-hour movie script that I've created. I read something the other day that was like, life gets easier when you realize you are the director and the producer, and you can change that shot and scene at any time, which leads me back to something you guys have taught me, course correcting. I can course correct in the middle of a situation. I don't have to follow it through. I don't have to stay the course and hold my ground. I can course correct as soon as I recognize where that side I got off on the access road, or where the other person did. And but it's recognizing that I'm not going back to, I'm not 25 people, and I can't do everything. And I have to find the balance. But I just lost my thought with all of that.
No, that was absolutely beautiful. And it sounds like a lot of mindset shifts, and it's like not a lot of physical things have changed, but a lot of internal things have changed. How has that shifted in your relationship or even your parenting? And by the way, we've got to watch you birth a beautiful human. So that has been just a beautiful journey in and of itself. Like, how has the mindset shifts help you to be a better wife, to be a better mother?
I think it falls back again to one small thing changes everything, and truly believing that, because it's as simple as, if I change the way I respond, it forces the other person to change the way they respond, or to look like the ass, like they're arguing with themselves. Or like if I say something when they're expecting me to do it differently, and they come back with the defensive, like maybe my husband's used to me lashing out, and I was changing the way I was responding to him, and it forced him to change it. If he came back angry at me when I was calmly responding, look like the ass. Like, so, and
real cool tactics.
but it takes, again, recognizing that, getting out of your own way so you're able to see it, and also course correcting. If I responded, once I recognized that I responded, changing it, not allowing it to continue, not continuing to stay there. Another thing you guys have taught me, that pause before I respond. That's a very powerful thing to me. Once I started recognizing it, I want to tell the story. I think I've told Chris the story. My daughter was at the table with me and my husband. We were eating. She's, I believe at the time, was 7. She wanted to stay home and play video games. She didn't want to go with us to do something. And she continued saying she wanted. And I was trying in my head to think of how to respond differently, because I was really angry. Like, I was frustrated, like, we're taking you to go do something, you ungrateful, and you're wanting to stay home and just play video games on your tablet. So I said, you just want to stay home and play video games, period. But my husband heard question mark. So as I paused, because she said yes, I paused to respond, and he jumped on me in that pause and said, I can't believe you're letting her stay home. But I wasn't like accepting what she said. I was pausing so that I could respond rather than react. So when he came at me from the left side, I didn't have a pause. That was just a response. And all that anger that was directed at her or came out on him. And so him and I just start going at it. And then I was like, whoa, time out. You walk away, I'm walking away. But when we came back, I said, you interpreted that pause as acceptance, while I was interpreting not, I'm going to rip your fucking neck off. Response. And I was so you have to understand that, in that moment, there wasn't time for me to update him that, hey, I'm going to try something different right now. But when I stepped back and I saw it all, I was like, it did somehow in the end present the opportunity to share what I was doing with him. And so now he understands that pause. And he allows me to have it before he responds and or he reacts. It's a response. And so I feel like has been something that's really improved our relationship, of allowing us to have better communication of, hey, or later on me giving him that look of like, I'll explain it to you later, and him saying, oh, okay, and us just moving forward with the situation. It's given us that opportunity to change, both of us.
I love, it takes so much awareness to be great in a relationship. I mean, the level of awareness that you have to have, unless you just click perfectly, which I think is almost impossible. And mostly because we're all in our own heads. A lot of times we're not really interfacing with the other person. We're interfacing with that movie like you were talking about. And so having that awareness and being able to talk to your partner in a different kind of way really solidifies what your relationship is like. So let's say that you argue 3 times a month, which would not be a lot. I mean, that's a quick little argument is 3 times a month. That's 30 something times a year. If you can get that down by half just by changing the communication, think about how much different the relationship is over 10 years. I mean, you got a whole new relationship. And if you can get that down to like 1 or 2 times, how much do we argue? Oh. Very little. But it's because of the communication style. It's not because we don't see eye to eye. That happens all the time. We're different people, extremely different. And so there's going to be so many times where I have a certain preference and then Britt has a certain preference, and then we're going to have a talk about it. And we're not, but it's the style of the way that we communicate has evolved. And it's amazing to see, because a lot of people don't realize it, is that the trick to working on your relationship is working on yourself. And so I want to ask you, where do you see Carrie and the Carrie family going into the future? What are you excited about over the next 1 to 5 years where you're saying I'm feeling good right now, family's feeling good right now, here's what we're looking forward to? What mindset are you in to look into the future and be like, this is going to be awesome?
Well, it changes a lot, as I continue on this journey, it shifts. And to me, I'm like, that's okay. Whereas before that wouldn't have been okay. I think as a society, we've gotten a little bit more of a instant gratification type of things and type of way of life. And I think for me, I've always lived in that. If it doesn't feel good, I don't want any more of it. But if it feels good, I want a whole lot of it. And I think that it's just, it changes. And for me, I think where I see myself in the next 5 years is sharing with others and helping others heal. I think healing is a nonstop. Growing is a nonstop. It's part of our journey. It just is. And if you get into compliancy, it doesn't always lead to simple as the desire, I believe we're all searching for. I've always said, even with my sobriety, if anybody just showed up at the door with that Tiffany box, that little Tiffany colored blue box with the ribbon on it, and said, here it all is, everything's perfect, you're going to just float through the rest of this journey. I mean, what kind of excitement would we have, really? I mean, isn't part of the excitement looking back and saying, wow, that's where I was when I thought I was undeemable? I've come this far. And I think that I want to help others do that. I want to share my journey and experience, but most importantly, I want to share something that I can leave my kids with when I'm no longer here, that they can say, my mom taught me, my mom showed me, my mom helped me. I saw my mom help other people, because I believe that it goes back to how we started. That's what this journey is about. We're not here by ourselves. We're not here to do it alone. Nothing about any of it. And no, it's not ever going to be perfect. It's progress over perfection. And it's, my husband and I are complete opposites. He's an Aries, I'm Aquarius. He's always worried about himself. I'm always the whole humanity of all of us is what my importance. Everybody's got to be happy. And so there's a lot of things, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. And it doesn't mean that, like you said, it's going to be perfect. It's just, it's accepting it is what it is and sharing that with others, sharing that it is what it is. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, your level of acceptance and surrender and trust is beyond. It's so beautiful to see you living in like that kind of faith and trust in yourself. Do you have a favorite masterclass, since you've been so consistent with showing up and being there live? I mean, obviously live is where it's at because it's like interactive. You can ask your questions, but do you have a favorite masterclass or a few that you can recall?
I go back to some. We kind of retain the information, and then maybe doesn't apply right now in my life. Maybe it applies next week. Maybe it applies next month. But the breathing, going back to them and remembering, when you hear something, I'll go back and I wrote it down in my notes. You guys have taught me how to breathe. And I thought that I should just be doing that just fine, since it's the first thing that I did when I came into this world. Like, you think, simple things like that, but I go back and I listen to those breathings. And sometimes I've noticed that while it's improving, it changes. So when I was in that class, I maybe have been a shallow breather, but now, so I'll go back and listen. Well, I'm a little bit better at my breathing. So let's see what they said about it at this level. But the breathing, the meditation, learning to do my own self hypnosis. Those are one I like. It's an old one, the chakra. I like that class a lot. Forgiveness has been one that's, because at different times we need different levels of forgiveness. A lot of times it started with, I needed to just forgive myself. And then once I'm able to get over that hump, maybe there is forgiveness for somebody else. So I'd go back and do like a little refresher, and to that bundle. There's just, every single one is incredible, but I think those would be my top ones.
Love that. And do you have a favorite part of just the club in general? Because you've got the master classes, you've got the yoga, the meditation, the lives, the community. Like, do you have a favorite part in general? Like, what keeps you a part of this community?
It's hard because like I'm busy. I do have 2 kids, and one is 1 and so I've sometimes not been able to make it to the live. So my favorite is being able to go back to the recording. I do like the yoga moves. I do like being able to go and watch those anytime, because we get those before the live. Excuse me. You get those at the beginning of the month, so you have time to practice. But the community, I'm going to say, is a big one. I've met people in the group that I'm friends with outside of the group. So I get to keep up. I come back because I want to hear what other people are going through and saying. And a lot of it is just feeling like you're a part of a community. And I like that, because I know that if I'm having a bad day on that day of the live, or even in the regular month, I can go into that group and on Facebook and share. So it's for me, it's a lot of where I'm at the moment, but all of it.
I've got one last question for you, Carrie, and I just want to say thank you so much for everything.
We just love you.
Thank you so much for being a big part of this and being a big part of a lot of other people's healing. I think you're already stepped into what you're talking about. Your 5-year goal is. We see it and hear about it all the time, and it's been incredible to watch you, because I think a lot of people don't realize that the second that you are able to overcome something for yourself, the second that you face a fear and beat it, the second that you're no longer overwhelmed, the second that you figure out how to conquer anxiety, any type of win that you have in life, your job is to now tell it to somebody else so they can do the same thing, so that they can do it and tell somebody else so they can do the same thing. And so that we can start spreading out, just really good things out in the world. Like, that's how we make really big changes happen. And it just changes with you having enough trauma, enough things happen in your life where you say, enough is enough. Like, I'm freaking tired of suffering, and I'm going to make some changes to my mindset, changes to my friend group, changes just whatever it's going to take, so that I can live the best life for me and then spread that to other people. So again, thank you so much. My question for you is, If someone's on the fence about the elevated life, if they're considering it, being like, what is this thing? I think I might be interested. I'm not really sure. What would you tell them?
Well, I would say, do you find it coincidental that you found it? If you found it, don't you think that maybe there's a reason? And what do you have to lose if you're on the fence? All you have to do is jump. There's a net underneath you. There's a ground underneath you. There's support underneath you. But I am a big believer in if I'm brought to it, then I feel that means a green light, move forward. You can always turn around. You can always course correct.
Yeah.
You can always change that and make it different if it's not for you. But maybe there is something in there and you're going to lose it, not get it.
I love that so much. I love that you've shared so many bits of wisdom and techniques and tools and mindset shifts that you've learned throughout this journey together. Is there anything else you feel called to share before we end our time together today?
I think the only last thing that I just want to say is add on to what Chris was saying about share it. You can even take it a step before that of when you're in that dark, share it. Share it. When that phone is the heaviest, pick it up. That means that you're supposed to pick it up to use it. It's heavy because that's what you're supposed to do. If it was light and easy, everybody would be doing it. And so I think that it's just trust. That was a big one for me. It's funny that you said that you just trust. Well, that's because I've worked on that. I've worked on that trust. I trust everything. Just trust myself to know that I'm going to make the right decisions. And I think that if you're sharing and you're getting out and you're seeking, you will find. We always find what we're seeking. So if I want the negative, I just have to search for it. I'll find it. If you want the positive, it may be a itty bitty little thing in there, but it's there. You just have to be willing to find it. And a lot of times, if you can't talk to somebody else, reach out to somebody else, because maybe they have that little tidbit of wisdom. And so start getting the conversations that we haven't wanted to have started.
That's so powerful. What you're saying is don't do it alone. There are people out there. There's wisdom out there. There's the support out there. So obviously, if you're listening and you need that kind of support, come join us inside the club, and Carrie will love on you and support you just as much as we will. Carrie is appointed elevator ambassador.
I'll have the welcome basket.
You truly
are the welcome committee.
Yeah, she's the president. You really do embody what it means to be an elevator. And we're just so thankful for your love, your support, and the community that you bring to the Elevated Life Club. Thank you so much for sharing here today, Carrie.
No, thank you guys so much.
Your passion, your light, your enthusiasm, and most importantly, your heart of service shine through so beautifully. So thank you for that, Carrie.
Well, thank you guys for helping everyone. It means the world to me.
Welcome to the Elevated Life Podcast. It is our elevators, the married couple, the Shivers, here joining us. And we're so excited to showcase their transformation and their journey inside the Elevated Life Club. It has been absolutely incredible getting to know them and watch them heal as a couple and individual, and what that has done for your relationship.
I think we always catch people individually, right? That's normally how we meet everybody is individually. And it was cool because that's originally how we met the two of you. But and even though your paths are totally different and they're all over the place, it is incredible to see what you can do when you come together. And I never knew that until I met Britt. I had no idea that there would be someone else, because you always hear your spiritual journey is your own and no one can walk the path with you. And that's sort of true, but it's a little bit bullshit too, because the person that you have on the other side of you, that person that's your partner, the person that's your significant other that you truly, truly care about, is going to be that person who's there when the part of growth becomes tough. And where you are fighting yourself in your mind, they can sort of pull you back down, back to ground base level and start so you can have a moment or a platform to be able to truly, really transform and to be able to enjoy yourself in that process.
So I want to hear from you guys. What were you both looking for individually and as a couple before joining the Elevated Life Club?
You want to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think about that time, Chris was really a big part of this veteran, like doing a lot with veterans in the veteran space. And they were all looking at different modalities and kind of ways to heal. And we were sort of entering what we like to call our sippy phase, our suburban hippie, kind of embracing that. And, I think we were just kind of searching. And the difference is I've been sober since 96. And so, I had to kind of do some soul searching, but we were looking for ways to connect and in ways that were like breathing together. So we went and we explored Wim Hof and we cold dip and we still do that. So just different ways for us to kind of grow spiritually, like mind, body, spirit together, but like parallel, I would say, not necessarily together. And so we had just kind of engaged with you guys and you've done this incredible reading for us. And, and I came across the goddess stuff. And then, I saw the Elevated Life and the podcast. And so I was like, hey, Chris, I think we can do this. Look, and like, you guys had like little things that we could do every month together as a couple. So that was kind of where we started. And so we joined.
I think for me, it was, I had an idea in my head of what I wanted my relationship to look like ultimately. And so as I started to examine that and started visualizing and manifesting what did I want that to look like, I started looking at examples of, okay, what do I want that relationship to look like? And I think for me, you guys were a natural, just somebody that I looked at it like, okay, this is kind of where I want to go. And then I started looking at, like anything, what are the best practices? What are they doing? What are they doing in their daily life? And then when Nancy said, hey, there's actually something they do where we can go in and learn this stuff, then it just seemed like she said, we were on very different paths at that point. I think I had already gone to Peru or was about to go. And so we knew that was coming. And so it felt like a good way for us to kind of come together and do something as a combined unit, because we feel like that's so important. That we don't lose sight of doing things together. And so, it was just a natural progression. And then we fell in love with it. I mean, it really became a big part of that, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well.
And it was really a really good, you guys were like a really good support system, whether you knew it or not, while he was gone. I mean, this was like our first jump into really like we kind of discovered everything at once. I was like, oh, I'm an empath. Dead people are following me around. Cool. Like all this kind of stuff was like coming to light, and he's going to Peru and I'm breathing and like sending him energy, from here. And I know he feels it and it makes no sense, but with the Elevated Life, it does. So I don't know. It just, for me, it really helped us connect on a deeper level.
Yeah.
I would say. And I love the 7 and above, because I'm horrible about taking one for the team, right? Horrible. I don't want to say no. And so you guys have said a couple of things, and we carry that stuff with us. Like, I'm not going to put limits on him. He won't put limits on me. And it's got to be a 7 or above. Now, you do have some that you have to take for the team, like family shit every now and again. But
yeah.
So, we love it. And we love the people too.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. So that's where we're.
Yeah. So what I want to know is, you're all, as an individual, we're going to go through something one person at a time. So Britt may be dealing with something. She may be triggered by something. She may have something come up that was something in her past, and it doesn't necessarily reflect on what my mood or what I'm going through in the moment. How do you, as a partner, go through that space where they're going through something tough, and that you need to be that support system for them? What do you keep your mind centered on during that process so you don't lose your cool? In other words, so you don't go on the trauma path with them or the overcoming or learning something. How do you stay centered so that you can be there to help them? Because I think that's one of the big things that the two of you do. You've gone through a lot of transformation over the past couple of years. And so I'm wondering how you're able to make that happen.
That's a toughie.
So I'll take the first stab. So this is something that's really been difficult for us to do. what we have found is that most often when we have a breakdown in communication, i.e., when we fight, and we do fight, it is typically because she is in a triggered state, and at the same time it's triggered me. As a guy, I guess, or as me specifically, my reaction is to fix things. I want to fix it. And if you come to me with a problem, it's a problem that I've caused. Whether I caused it or not, my mind and my ego still says, it's my fault. You did this. You need to fix it. You need to make it right with her. Even if I had nothing to do with it. So it's been really difficult. And I will be honest, and I hope we get a chance to talk about the couples retreat, but one of the really big things that we learned in that weekend was putting the plexiglass up. And I will tell you both that I have been trying to put my plexiglass up since we went to that thing. And I think I finally did it for the first time this weekend.
Woo, woo.
The hardest thing to do. And it is the hardest thing for me to do. And I have killed my ego every way known to man, and it still hasn't helped. It's still a hard thing to do. So it's just a matter of really getting to know her on a cellular level and knowing what her triggers are, knowing what those inner child work this past month that's what we had been working on anyways, because we really found that it's important. And all those triggers typically go back to something that happened in our youth that's triggering us, and what is causing that, and then recognizing it. And when she's in that moment saying, nope, this isn't about me, this isn't about my pain or what my hurt is from a past experience, this is about supporting her in this moment and being the bigger person and just saying, hey, I'm about you. And then telling her after the fact, hey, just so you know, this was the story I was telling myself in my head, and this was the lie I was fighting in my head, just so you know what was going on. And then it's just recognizing both of us, hey, thanks for doing that, thanks for being there and holding that space.
And it's definitely the time that we spend like this is getting shorter and shorter. I mean, but that's probably, it's always when the two of us are triggered. It's always between fucking day 3 and 5 or 2 and 4, it's always because girls go through it too. I mean, I know I do. And we're always about a day apart. But yeah, it's been, it's really hard. We've uncovered some pretty big stuff, and I've had to learn how to formally kind of hold space, if you will. And it's really hard to not. He was doing some deep healing the other night, and I couldn't be up close for it because I can feel it all, and I can feel his stuff, but you guys have taught us, like, he knows, like, when I look at him and I say, I'm okay, like, he knows I'm okay. And I was able to come to him with some really big shit that that I'd been triggered on. And it was a rough couple of days for me. And he knew it wasn't about him. That was the big thing. Like, my old shit's coming up. And the coolest thing is that we've learned, because I've shared it with him, he knows it's not him, and he's put up the plexiglass, and he knows that even though this instance is not this instance from my youth, I'm getting a chance to do it over, and backs me up. And so we're able to then change it, and then I'm able to be there for him. We usually give each other a day. Yeah. It's usually like the next day. And it's definitely gotten better. But we did some really awesome, like, big work this week, last 2 weeks, I'd say.
It's so crazy to continue to watch these massive breakthroughs, because we got to witness them, as you mentioned earlier, joining us at the Evolved Couples Retreat. The healing, the breakthrough, the communication, the realizations that you guys had in that weekend was absolutely inspiring. Can you share some of those insights or aha moments into yourself, into your relationship that you learned at the Evolved Couples Retreat?
Yeah, I will go back, and I'll try not to use the word ego too much in this, but I really came into that. I would have said, like, we were, and this would have been downplaying it because I wouldn't have wanted to sound like an asshole, but I would have said we were at like an 8.5. Like, I would have said, like, where's your relationship? I would have said we're at like a solid 8.5, maybe a 9. And then, not through anything other than just communication and barriers coming down and walls coming down. I was like, oh shit, we're like at a 6, you know, at best. And I mean, I'll be honest, I think right now we're probably at an 8,
Oh,
you know,
guys.
8.5, maybe.
No, we're definitely close. We're
But-
going to the pagan party. We're gonna don't listen to his ass. He's lying. He's trying to be all humble.
But I think it was really just saying, okay, where do I have areas to improve? And if I'm not going to be honest with myself and honest with my partner and my shortcomings, then how is it going to get any better? And why am I going to lie to her? And why am I going to lie to y'all? And why am I going to pretend to be something that I'm not? Why not just say, okay, I'm here to learn something. I'm here to be better. What can I learn? And I mean, it spun us on a whole nother direction. I mean, if not for that, we wouldn't, you know, I had known a little bit about Tantra from having to be in Dhyata for the jungle and whatnot, but it was a very different thing than kind of what Chris was explaining to the guys. So just the Tantra and the sex magic and the holding for long periods of time completely changed how we interact with one another, just on a daily basis.
Yeah, I want to ask you real quick, talking about being a guy, which is really interesting. Because I love the fact that you're bringing up ego, because a lot of times we associate ego with very masculine way. You know,
Sure.
I'm brute force, I'm strong, I'm going to knock down everything, like I'm going to pin it to the mat, like that kind of thing. I want to ask you, how has being open and being intimate, how has that altered, changed your relationship with your ego? How have you started to use the ego maybe in a new way?
I mean, I think I know that it's just part of me. And I think all those things are pieces of me. And so, it's really up to me how much of my story I tell to people and who gets to hear my story, because it's a pretty incredible story, to be honest. And so, for me, what I found is when I started sharing that emotion and I started being real and being in the moment, that's when the magic started happening. And that's when my life just started exploding on an exponential level. And I mean, I believe that I'm living a life that I've manifested that's far beyond any dreams I could have made. And I fully believe that if I wanted to be rich and I wanted to manifest money, I could, but I choose not to, because I've seen it 100 times over, people that aren't happy, that have tons of it. So I think for my ego, it was just really I think what I like most about you guys and most about Chris is I think he sets a great example of being a strong man, but also being very heart open with his partner. And I don't think we see many examples of that anymore. I think everybody wants to beat their chest and be this hyper masculine man. And so, and obviously he and I have a very personal connection and a friendship, but I think getting to watch somebody else do that, I mean, I looked at it like, okay, I want to be that way. I want Nancy to be my goddess. And at first I thought, that's silly. I don't understand it. And even when we went to the retreat, and it wasn't until we really got into holding that I was like, oh, I got it now.
And I'm a horrible goddess.
No, you're a great goddess. But I mean, I think it was just recognizing that, if I live to this person's needs and we create this space where what we're doing is for the betterment of the both of us, then it just creates this unbelievable environment where we can both be truly open and honest with each other, which then just creates this whole other atmosphere where we can just live openly and love each other. And it's been great.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Nancy, I'm curious, do you have any favorite master classes from the Elevated Life Club that you've learned over the years?
I really liked the bedtime yoga one. That was my favorite. We did it together.
Yeah.
Every night, we would do it together. And so, that one, I'll be honest, like the 1 minute in each pose or whatever it was, because it's been a while, but like that was definitely our favorites. And I liked the inner child stuff just because I've been doing so much work with that. So the one that we just did, and that was probably one of my favorites as well, like as far as the elevated life one that we did. And so, yeah.
What about you, Chris?
I mean, I think I love the meditation stuff. I love I'm lucky that I get to do Chris's hypnosis outside of the classes. So I love the hypnosis stuff. I mean, I think for me, it's been so crazy because so many things have had such a big impact, but I really, because we were going through it at the time, the inner child work was really profound for me because, I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that doesn't have some level of trauma. And Nancy and I talk about it all the time, that your trauma is your trauma, and your trauma doesn't know that it's a quote small trauma or if it's a big trauma. It just knows what it is, and whatever that was has dictated a lot of what your behaviors are going forward, and you can correct those things. And so it was just reassuring in that moment to kind of hear that, and I really enjoyed that one.
The one thing that I do like about all of your master classes is there's very few things out there that encourage couples that are in a good space to grow together. There's just not a lot out there. I'll be honest. I mean, I see a lot of men's groups, I see a lot of women's groups, but I had to learn how to find my voice with my partner. And so, because not having so you guys really kind of gave us different ways to listen and different ways to communicate. And because that's a big deal for my physical health as well, is, keeping all that shit in and not having a voice. So that's been like so much more healing than you could have happened. Like, you can have a girls group and be like, yeah, you need to tell him, and find your voice. You can have a guys group, but when you put the two together, they don't know how to talk to each other. And so that's what the couple stuff really, that's why I love the retreat and the master classes, and we try to do them together.
I love that. Chris, what do you think makes the Elevated Life Club, the transformations and the magic that happens inside of those live masterclasses? Because you guys show up to them live. You don't just watch the replays. You guys are involved in it. What do you think makes the Elevated Life Club different or powerful?
I think for me, it's the positivity. I mean, I'm a big believer in manifestation. I'm a big believer in you can do, kind of whatever you set your mind to do. And I think for me, I have it set in my schedule. Like, I have that afternoon off what it was, the first, second Tuesday.
And my boss gives me the day off.
Yeah, I have it on my calendar. It's just a reoccurring. And so I'll actually, my assistant will be like, hey, you got the Elevated Life. Do I need to schedule on time? I'll be like, you can schedule it really quick, but it has to be like a 5-minute in and out appointment. And so it's just been part of my modality, really. I mean, I look at it like self-care, and I look at it from care between us. I was glad that we realized that we still had areas that we can grow in and still do. And so I just think for me, I love the positivity. There's so much negativity out there now that it's just good to be in an environment where you can feel like you're in a safe place, where you can talk about things and kind of explore things that you wouldn't normally do in your kind of day-to-day.
Yeah. And so I also want to ask you guys real quick, because you are great examples. And I will tell you, you nailed on it earlier, and Nancy, same way, how much the two of you have been able to blend both polarities of masculine and feminine together, because we met Nancy as the go-getter. I mean, the first Nancy, we did not know Nancy necessarily yet with the big heart. We didn't know that part yet. We met Nancy knock you out. Like, don't mess with her, kind of big badass presence kind of a thing. She's going to shake the room. You're going to know that she's in there. And then we found out about her cooking. And I watched how she lit up with her cooking and the amount of love and attention that she gave that. And I'm like, Nancy's both. I'm like, she has that masculine quality of I can get things done when I want to get it done, but I can also open my heart, love somebody, serve somebody, care about them, care about their growth. And it's been the two of you. And I've watched you grow so much doing that. And to me, that's such a huge part of really what lights my life up. I mean, it's no use being able to do anything if you're never sharing that with other people. And it's amazing what you've done with yourselves. It's amazing what you've done with your kiddos. And I want to ask you guys, what would you tell somebody who was on the fence about joining Elevated Life? If they're like, hey, I'd like to improve with my partner. I've got a partner right now. And maybe we think we're at an 8.5. Maybe we really are at a 6 for right now. And maybe we do want to improve. What would you tell somebody like that, wondering like, what is it that we could do?
Okay, go ahead.
I would tell them to do it and stay teachable. Because like Chris said, what we saw that our relationship, there weren't any big gaping holes. It was tiny little microaggressions. That's all it was. It was flyby conversations. It's the little things that you don't notice until it's too late and they become big things. So if you're on the fence, and it's fun and you meet cool people and go to the retreat because it's badass, hang with us because we're fun too. But yeah, I mean, I would just say you really can't go wrong. But try it. If you don't try it, you'll never know.
I mean, I would say for me, we were kind of always we would always say we were drawn to people that were more kind of alternative, that didn't kind of march to the beat of or kind of march to the beat of their own drummer. And so we've always been drawn to that. I mean, I know it's hard for people to believe we were very corporate and very like button up just 5 years ago.
I don't know why.
I don't know why we were either. But what I found is that as we just leaned into being authentic and to being who we saw we could be. I mean, I know your history, I know both your histories, and I know who you were and who you are now and how different it is. And it's just, who do we want to be? I just want to be the best version of me that I can be for her because I love her with all my heart. And so how do I get that? Well, I get there by swallow my ego, putting on my plexiglass, not wanting to fix everything, and doing all those things that I've learned. And so for me, I would just say, like Nancy said, we all have something we can learn, and there's just so many areas of opportunity, and there's just an unbelievable life to be lived when you fully devote yourself to someone else. And I think that's the example you set. We thought you were crazy when you spent every waking moment together, and now we do. We don't
You're
ever.
welcome.
I mean, we're the same way. And so to really
by choice,
right, by choice, but to really embrace that mentality of that, okay, I can just be open, honest, and expose myself. And I'd say the biggest thing, and I think the one thing that I do want to touch on is the biggest thing that Chris said in passing, and I'll get him to quote it because I'll say it wrong, was that he said early on, I remember him saying, I said early on to Brittany that she couldn't, I have to be able to make my own decisions. I have to be able to do those things that I want to do. And when he said that, for whatever reason, it really resonated with Nancy and I, because we do get one chance at this. And I do not want to hold her back on anything that she wants to do. And she feels the same way. And when you can live with that authenticity and live in that freedom of knowing that you're loved unconditionally and that you're allowed to go out and do whatever you want to do, no matter how crazy or off the cuff it may be, it just puts you into a different level of happiness and bliss that I get why people can't understand it. It's off the charts.
But it's about doing the adventure together.
Yes.
Like, I gotta tell you, we do some crazy stuff, and there's nobody I'd rather have. Like, I get to I feel like we're like living our best. Like, I'm reliving my teenage life with my best friend and the person, like my ride or die, and I didn't have him back then. So we get to do it again.
Yeah.
And so it's awesome.
That's so beautiful. It sounds like you guys are really embodying living an elevated life. It is so incredible to witness the love between you two and the love that grows for your own authenticity and personal self-development. It's incredible. You guys are a shining example, and you should be extremely proud of the beautiful work that you're doing in your lives and in this community. So thank you so much for being a very special part of the Elevated Life Club, being an elevator, a friend, and a mentor as well. So thank you guys so much for being on here and sharing your wisdom. Is there anything else you guys feel called to share or that you think our listeners need to know?
Yes, I just want to say thank you to both of you. I can't put into words. There are a very small number of people that have had a huge, huge impact on us, and you guys are one of them. So I can't say thank you enough. I can't imagine that anyone out there wouldn't want to take that commitment and it really is about elevating. It's not about repairing or fixing. It's just about elevating, and it's just a better way to be. So thank you.
Yeah. Ditto.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Until then, we'll catch you next time.
All right. Love you guys.
Thank you so much for being here today, Anne. We appreciate you.
I'm excited. I have a lot of energy today.
So the purpose of this is because we wanted to showcase some transformations of our elevators on the podcast, and there's just no better person to have share their story than you, Anne. I just am so proud of you for all the healing and growth that you've consistently put yourself through this over the last 6 years of me knowing you.
Yeah, it's been a lot. But I wrote it all down and I was like, wow, that's a lot of things. Because if I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, nothing happened. But then I write it down. I'm like, oh no, a lot happened. A lot just kind of took over.
Yeah, it's crazy how you don't even realize the change that's happening on a day-to-day basis until you actually sit down and reflect. So I feel like today's the perfect, and a new moon, perfect day to reflect on all the changes. So we just have a couple of questions, and I just want to let you just run with it and go. The questions that we have in mind are what were you struggling with before joining the Elevated Life, and what was your transformation, and yada yada. So we'll kind of go from there. But I wanted to start with who are you and why? What were you looking for before joining the Elevated Life? What were you struggling with?
So that's 2016 me, because I'm not that person anymore. I was struggling a lot with my physical health and my mental health. I had actually just gone through a life-changing surgery that the doctors told me hey, we got to do this or you're risking death every month. So it wasn't really a choice I had. It was thrown at me. And then surgery happened. I actually had a complication coded on the table. So when I came back in recovery, I didn't feel the same as when I had gone into surgery. Everything had fallen apart. My business, my clients left before my surgery. So I had nobody. I was making no money. We just moved into an apartment that was bigger, had more space for us and the kids, but also cost more. So not all these things that I had set up, everything. And I was basically just scrolling through Facebook and following groups and finding, and I was like, okay, I don't remember exactly how I connected with Shine Tribe, but I joined and obviously was accepted at a shift because I had no guidance. I wasn't in therapy. I wasn't communicating with people. I was very closed off. And then you, Little Miss Unicorn, were just bright and everywhere. And my Facebook feed just became Brittany. And it was subliminal messages kind of were happening through my Facebook, because I'd get your random affirmations, I'd get little posts from you, and then all of a sudden you guys were doing tell in the group, and I was like, ooh, what is this? And then I clicked, I joined, and after that I was hooked with both of you. I'm obsessed. And I wasn't really seeking anything. I was just open to receiving something. I think that was my biggest piece at that point. Because I said, everything had fallen apart and I didn't know where I was headed or what I was doing. I'd given up. And all of a sudden this thing, which happened to be you guys, just kind of hit me in the face and was like, hey, no, don't stop. Keep going. Like my business, I closed it. I literally closed it. You made a comment, was like, hey, what's your website? I'd love to see your work. And in 24 hours, I was like, I literally just deleted my domain. I deleted everything. And now I have to make a whole new website so she can see everything. And then it just kind of grew from there. So that's where I was.
You know, it's really amazing. There's something that you brought up that I think is dramatically important for so many people to realize, is that a lot of times we're looking for something new. We've gotten ourselves in a situation where we know that we need to climb out of it. Even if it's not a deep hole, sometimes you need to come out of a hole. And a lot of times what we try is stuff that we've either heard of or that we already knew. And if that would work, we wouldn't be in the hole. And it's so important to have that open mindset, because a lot of times we don't know necessarily what exactly will work, but it's just putting ourselves out there and being like, I don't know, let's just do this. I remember when we first got together, both of us said no on relationships. We were both in a space where we're like, you know what? I'm going to concentrate on me. I'm not going to do any more of the, let me dump my entire life into somebody else. And in that moment of being open and being like, hey, I'm ready for a change, boom, it all came together. And it seems like so much of your story is just sort of like not necessarily having to see 50 steps ahead, but just being like, okay, I'm open to the next step. Show me that next step so that I can just take charge on that. And watching your journey and watching just how your life has been unfolding and seeing all the amazing work that you do, like, we're so proud of you. It has been incredible to watch. And we've been saying this for years now. And it's crazy because it just gets better. I'm like, Anne's crushing it again. Here comes Anne again. Like, it's so touching for us to be on the other side, being able to watch you and being able to see all of your growth and what you're doing, not only in your business and for other people, but what you're doing with your kiddo, what you're doing in your own relationships. And you're amazing. You know, you came along when Shine School was a concept. Like, it was something that Britt she had notes on it, and that was it. It was, scribbled stuff in pages of a notebook. That's all it was. And so you really came in at the beginning of our journey into the whole online world and trying to take what we were doing in person with our regular clients and take it to more people. And it's been amazing because we didn't know where any of this was going to go. Like, we had no idea. I mean, we didn't know anything about Elevated Life. We didn't know anything about retreats. We didn't know anything about any of that crap. And it has been incredible as we've been on this journey and doing this, to be able for you to be so coincide with us, for you to be like running along with us. And it's like every time we turn around, you are hitting another milestone and another milestone, or facing something big that you hadn't faced yet, or kind of going back into things where now you're strong enough to face things that you would have loved to have back then. And just being able to watch that growth for us. I mean, that's the bonus of this business. A lot of times you get into business for money and get into things like that, but like, that is not lasting. It's being able to watch people transform, being able to watch people change, being able to watch people like do things in their life that they've always sort of known that they could do, but they just haven't done it yet. And you are such the prime example of that. And not only with what you've done in your business and in, for yourself, but the way you've done it, showing up as a parent, where you're showing up for your kid. It's that kind of stuff that I didn't even know we would ever touch on. I didn't even know that would be a ripple effect of anything that we ever put out. And you're truly inspiring. I mean, I've loved watching it, and I cannot wait for more. I keep telling Brett, I'm like, damn, look at Anne. And I feel like every couple of months I'm saying the same. I'm like, look, Anne's doing it again. Here goes Anne again. Here, round the track again. Here we go. And I'm so excited for your journey. I mean, that's the benefit of being long-term watching somebody. It's not just like, oh, she did really well for 3 weeks and then she fell off the wagon. Now she's gone forever. Here we go again. No, it's been, change happens consistently over time. I mean, it's like it's an effort every single day. It's not like you can just do it real hard one weekend, suddenly you're done, and then now you don't have to do it again. And so I just want to commend you for spending this much time. Would you say 2016? This has been a bit. I mean, it's been a minute, and you've done nothing but progress. And just, I feel like you're living more and more of the life that, you're bringing your dreams out. It's like your vision board, your life kind of thing.
So what would you say is your biggest transformation since being a founding member of the Elevated Life over 6 years ago? You have literally shown up to almost every single class. And if you weren't there live, then you definitely watched it back and took 18 pages of notes. So your level of commitment and consistency is unmatchable, honestly. So what has been the transformation and result of that consistency for you?
Well, there's a lot of transformations that have happened because of the consistency. I would probably say the biggest one actually is more personal than it is professional. I have 5 kids and they're all different. And my youngest, I love her to death, but I also struggle with her the most. Mostly because she is like my mini me, but not in a she looks like me, she acts like me kind of way. It's the things that she's going through in her life and her energy and how she is just in general is how I was as a kid. And with my trauma and being basically stunted super early, being able to work with you guys, heal myself as she's growing. Because she was, 3 when I first started working with you guys, and she's almost 10. So, like, there's been a lot of transformation just in her own growth.
She's my little friend.
But I've healed enough to be able to witness her and not try to control her. So, like, my parenting has shifted because I've been able to parent my children as they need me, not as I think they need, but as they need me in different situations, in different ways, because I have boys and a girl. But I've also been able to kind of parent myself. Like this year, I fully eliminated the toxic relationships that I had growing up. The last one was just before the last surgery that I had this year. My mom showed up the week before surgery for like a 3-day visit, and I normally see her every couple years. And it was really, really bad. Like, it wasn't a bad visit, but it was like emotionally bad for me. And I started to relapse to the way that I used to be when I was around her all the time. And then I was like, okay, I really got to like deal with this, but I also have to like get ready for surgery. And I was able in that time, in a whole week, to go through everything that had happened that weekend with her, those 3 days, look at it, and then like heal my inner child and realize like I was defending and like deflecting my kids because of the things that she was like saying under her breath and how she was interacting. There was one moment where she told Calliope she was bossy because she was waiting on her brother to like push a button while they were playing a game, and he was in his phone. So she spoke up. She used her voice and was like, hey, I need you to push the button, because he was the first player. And then my mom turned around and told her she was bossy. And I was like, that's not being bossy. That's saying, hey, like I need something from you. And I was able to do that. And then leading into surgery, I was emotional. I let myself cry about everything, about my mom, the fact that nobody was going to be there, all the things. And I actually came out of surgery 10 times stronger than I'd ever been. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't been consistent with all of the things that you guys teach. Because normally people think, oh, it's just going to be this one thing. That's all I got to work on. No, it's that one thing that's connected to like that thing that connects to this thing. And like there's a big chain connection of everything. And that's what you guys taught me.
Wow. So obviously you learn loads of transformational tools, mindset hacks, and techniques. What are some of your favorite that you find yourself using, like you just did with your mom? Do you have one that comes to mind that you just love?
My biggest one is meditation. But it's not the typical meditation. It's not the like, I'm going to sit down and we're just going to like ignore everything for 20 minutes. It's that I give myself the space for like a 20-minute meditation, but instead I have like music playing and then I journal. So like I'm physically expelling it, or I'm staring at a candle and like my brain is just processing words and thoughts. And then I journal about it so that it like leaves my body without me having to like go beat a punching bag for like 20 minutes. I've been doing that pretty consistently for 2.5 years now. Because before I'd like journal and like everything was kind of like separate acts, but now it's like a blended act. And then the other thing that really sticks out for me is showing up live with you guys, because I can be doing all these things, but then like I lose momentum. And I'm like, okay, this is great. Like I get this, I'm doing these things, but then I'm like, okay, I'm doing it by myself. Yay. And then I'm like, oh wait, no, there's a live. Okay, what are we learning now? And like I get energized, I get excited. And like I was actually sad that I missed like this month's live. And then I realized I was a week off. But I did watch the replay and I got a lot out of that. So yeah, showing up live and doing my form of meditation, which is journaling.
Yeah, I think that, you know, a lot of people, when you look at a bunch of techniques, it's always difficult to figure out how can I fit that into me. And oftentimes it's you take the technique and then add you to it, just like a recipe. You know, I'm going to make the cookies that way the first time, but like I like the salt a little different. I need them a little less sweet. I don't want so many chocolate chips. You know, you got to really, when you're thinking about personal development, when you're thinking about like really diving into what works, it's always going to be different for everybody. Like we're not the same. We're not all cookie cutter shapes. I know that like so many things want us to be cookie cutter. You know, school wants us that way. The way you shop, you know, when you pick out clothes, everyone's like a certain fit. We're not. Some people are tall. I mean, Anne's very tall. And so it's like, you know, you can't, it's everyone's so different. And I feel like a lot of times we try to apply one thing to everybody, and that's never going to be the way. So if someone's listening that has been wanting to be on a journey where they want to heal a bunch of things, sometimes you just need to change the recipe a little bit. You know, you need to find out what really works for you. What I'm curious about, what does the future hold for Anne? What does the future hold for Anne and Anne's family, Anne's kiddos? Like what are you excited about coming through? Like what's this next like 6 months to a year look like for you where you're like, damn, I'm pumped about this?
Well, it actually kind of goes back to the first time that Brittany did a reading with me. And she told me, she like looked me square in the eye and she goes, you're not going to be a virtual assistant forever. Like, I want you to hear me and hear me now. Like, it's not going to be forever. And I was like, but like, this is, I'm 2 years in my bit. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I've decided. It is my career. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll listen, but whatever. And like, I didn't really put a lot of thought into that. Sorry, Britt, I love you, but I heard you. But it was like the seed had been planted 6 years ago. Moving forward, I am in the midst of a online community using Mighty Networks. It's called Authentic Goddess Community. It was my podcast. And then I realized the podcast was too individual and I wanted the community aspect because I work better in that form. So that's where business is going. I'm actually really, really pumped about it because I get to take the last 10 years of my own journey and add the feminine with the masculine pieces, because I was taught all the masculine analytical things, but then Miss Unicorn here, Brittany, decided that, oh, hey, you have to add feminine into this. Like, you're not just one-sided. There are two sides to this coin. And now I'm kind of pouring that out, which I was actually doing before we hopped on our call. And the biggest thing that's moving forward for like my family is we are currently manifesting a 5-acre lot where we are having a house built for us. And like all these pieces are there. And I'm not holding on to be like, oh, it has to happen in 6 months. I'm like, okay, we're stable where we are. Things are consistent. I know it's going to happen because I already have things in place. My best friend actually owns the property and he's like, hey, this lease is coming up in about 3 years is when he told us. So that's like a year left, I think. And he's like, and we're looking at sectioning it out and selling off portions of the property. And he's like, would you guys be open to like buying a section? And I was like, yeah, like, duh. Like, we're here every weekend. The kids have grown up on the farm. Like, why wouldn't we want to be here? And I'm not holding on to the when is this going to happen or how. Like, those pieces I already know are in play. I'm excited about getting ready for the day that we step into our house. Like, I'm already visualizing that. I'm picturing, like, it's very detailed. As you guys know, I have a really strong imagination. So I have like the scents that are in each room, all the visuals, everything, the paint that's on the walls, all of it in my head. And I'm like, going through, so when I'm journaling and meditating and things like that, I'm presenting myself in my head as the version of me that lives in that house. That's the person who's showing up when I journal. That's the person who's showing up when I'm building my business. That is the person that I am now. But I also know that it takes time for my environment to reflect that. And that's like my biggest excitement right now.
Like, who is this girl right now? This is just so incredible. Like, to see the confidence and the trusting. Do you think you would have ever trusted yourself this much had you not been a part of this community learning these mindset techniques?
No. Because in 2016, like I was a very broken person. I had no self-esteem. I had no confidence. I had no dreams, aspirations, any of that, because I had been taught in tradition and programmed and trained in all of that, that everything that I wanted didn't matter. That people pleaser was my like identity, my existence. And then through consistency and healing little pieces here and there, like there were times when you guys would do a training and I was like, actually a couple trainings ago, I was bawling because all of a sudden like it hit me. I mean, even the replay for the trauma training that we just did, that first meditation whooped my butt. Like I was literally bawling. I was like, I'm so glad nobody is home. I'm so glad I'm not on live right now, because like I'm like all the ugly cries were happening. And like after that, I was like, okay, I'm not doing anything for the rest of the day. Like I'm done. And so I just played music and I just kind of existed in my house with the awesome cats that we have. So my fur babies were with me, but that was about it. And I just kind of sat with all of that energy. And I realized that so much of me had just broken free from one meditation. It was like, what, like a 4-minute thing? That was it, 4 minutes. And like a big chunk of everything that I had been holding on to left. One of the biggest things that really led to my transformation this year, which I know that you guys definitely influenced and helped with. I can't pinpoint like what exactly, but through the consistency. So as you guys know, before the Goddess retreat this year, I had surgery and that surgery failed. So they're like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes and like decide if we're going to go to this bigger one. Well, so we decided after that surgery had failed that we were going to do the hysterectomy. And I was like, okay, I don't want to see this as a loss. I want this to be something to celebrate, something to enjoy. And in that week that my mom had visited and stuff, I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, so like hysterectomy, motherhood, like all of it connected, and it was really raw. And I was like, you know what? I'm already a mom. I have kids. I'm okay with that. I'm not losing anything. I'm actually regaining myself. Like I get Anne back. This is Anne before the trauma, before all the icky parts of my body. So what was it? The day before surgery, I did a visualization meditation. I sat in silence and I put my hands on my belly and I was like, all the trauma that is stored within me is going to leave whatever part it's in and come to my uterus. It's all going to get stored there. And then surgery will be that physical representation of this leaving my body. And then I was at the hospital by myself because it was super early. So Dustin couldn't be with me because he had calliope and then she had to go to school and stuff. So it was just me sitting in there in my little gown with my socks and everything. And I did it again. And I was like, okay, if there's anything that's stuck in my body, it will leave now with surgery. And everything that happens afterwards is going to go perfectly well, is going to be ahead of the game, is going to be completely healed. And I'm getting me back. I'm not going to be traumatized. I'm not going to be struggling. I'm actually going to be healthy. I'm going to be stronger. And at my 2-week appointment, I was a little nervous. So I had them check everything. And she goes, if I hadn't been in surgery with you, I would say you're 6 weeks post-surgery.
Wow. This sounds like a total elevated mindset.
Damn.
Absolute healing and transformation in your own hands. Oh, I'm so proud to hear that.
It feels like real power. Like
That's
this is what feels
power.
like true power. It's using your mind, not allowing yourself to worry, which is what 99% of people are doing all day long, is worrying. And it's deciding like, hey, this is my life. I can use my mind. My mind definitely interacts with my body. And if I tap into my mind the correct way and use the power that it has, because we know how we're incredible beings. It's just a lot of times we don't know how to do anything with it. It's like we got this power, but what are we doing? And for you to be able to do that, to know to do that, to stay in that feeling, and you're doing it. Here we go again.
She's embodied the
You're
elevated
doing
life.
it. I mean, golly, I'm gonna be. My mouth's gonna be sore after this from smiling so much, because as you were telling a story, the smile just. I'm like, yes, yes, Anne, yes.
Oh my gosh. Anne, what is your favorite part of being in the Elevated Life Club?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was Chi Chi's Up.
Oh my gosh. So for those of you who don't have a fucking clue what that means, it is something we say as our mental mantra before we hit the live button with all of the elevators. We say Chi Chi's Up, and that sets the tone. It brings the energy up, and it kind of just puts us in like, okay, we're ready to deliver. So Chi Chi's Up is our go-to mantra before we are being called to teach. I love that. Chi Chi's Up. So you love being there live for that kind of energy.
I think I've actually embodied that a little bit. And now, like, when I wake up every day, it's just a generalized get up and like Chi Chi's up, and then I take on the day.
Yes. That's so beautiful. Is there anything you would tell someone who's listening today that is interested in joining the Elevated Life, but might be on the fence? What would you tell them? Like, what do they need to know?
To try it for a month.
Yeah. What are you going to lose?
So
Yeah.
like, there's really nothing to lose in trying it. If anything, they're going to gain like 50 million different things in this 1 month, whether that's the Facebook group, whether that's showing up live, the community, all the members, and just the energy shift that happens. Because like I was talking about, like I lose momentum when I'm doing things by myself, and then there's a live and I'm like, oh, it's like I'm not recharging the battery, but it's like that little boost that keeps me going. So for anyone that's on the fence, you really have nothing to lose.
Only magic and power to gain.
Boom.
Oh, all right. Last question. I love asking this. What does living an elevated life mean to you?
Authenticity.
So good.
Yeah, powerful.
And you embody authenticity. And it's so beautiful to see that reflect in your work that is beyond just doing VA work. I am not that just, but you know, like there's always more, there's always room for evolution. And in that moment, you didn't see a version of yourself that could expand beyond the abundance, the success, the level of creativity and boss babeness. But now you've soared past where you even thought was possible. And I just can't wait to see what the next year holds for you. We're on year 6 together as an elevator, and it's only gotten better year over year. So thank you for your consistency, not in just supporting the Elevated Life movement, but being there for you, showing up for you, doing the work, and letting that influence and impact your family and your community. You are truly a leader.
Oh, I can't wait to hug you again, Anne.
I know it. I know it. When I
It
met
will
you at the
happen.
goddess retreat, I was like, dang, girl, you are tall.
I told you I was tall. I'm like, I'm tall. I'm above average.
Yep.
Oh,
And
sure.
And I'm like almost eye to eye with Chris. I'm like, oh, we're tall.
And I'm like, we're gonna be the volleyball captains. I'm with this. All right.
There we go.
I'll be the libero. That was
That's fine.
my position. Oh my gosh. Well, Anne, thank you so much. Is there anything else you feel called to share here in the spotlight?
The only other thing that I feel called to share is it's okay to doubt yourself. It is perfectly okay, especially if you're joining the Elevated Life or you're in Shine Tribe and you're like, oh, I don't think this actually applies to me. Like, that's completely normal. I had that thought every single time a new topic came out. I was like, oh, that's not going to be for me. And then I showed up for it and I was like, oh no, this is for me. This is for me that I didn't know was like existing right now, but okay, I hear you. So doubt is actually your best friend.
With the wisdom right there. Boom. Okay, mic drop for the Anne. Wow. Thank you again for being here. We're so grateful for you, and we can't wait to see you on the live next month.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life podcast. Want more? Join us at theelevatedlifeclub.com for mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a new masterclass, meditation, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
Come join the 7 or Above Club.